Good afternoon, madam. My name is Hunt. I am a professor from England. Miss Carmen Diaz-Palencia sent me to you.
Good afternoon. Carmen sent you? Is she unwell, perhaps?
No, you don't need to worry. I am her friend. I would like to talk to you.
With me? Well, all right. Come inside, Mr. Hunt.
Madam, are you the widow of the late Mr. Candelas?
Yes, sir. My name is Isabel Candelas. My husband passed away quite a long time ago. And now my son, too. True, he has not died, but this is almost like death. You know, he has been imprisoned. Innocent.
Yes, I have heard the story from Miss Diaz-Palencia. Where is your son locked up?
For a few more days here at the police station at the Plaza San Pedro. But soon they will take him to the capital, and there it will be hopeless to try and prove his innocence. That coward Garcia de la Rica is an influential man, a well-known politician, and no one will say a word against him.
Madam, actually, I am in search of the Agon.
Sorry, sir, I don't know anyone by that name.
What kind of man is your son, Mrs. Candelas?
Francisco is my everything. He is honest. My late husband and I brought him up to be a great man. I am certain that Alonso Garcia de la Rica only wants to take revenge on the Candelas family with the charges he made up. He himself knows that my son is an honest man and would never do something like that. To steal from the man who gives him work, and to steal a sword that my husband gave that monster. Impossible. Francisco is innocent.
What is your son's job?
Francisco learned the smith's profession from his father, Carlos Candelas. The Candelas family is a famous line of master swordsmiths, Mr. Hunt. Although nowadays, beautiful swords or other fine works are not so easy to sell. My son could only make money from blacksmith work and repairs, just enough for the two of us. I don't know what I will do now that I'm so old.
Mrs. Candelas, could you tell me about your husband?
My husband, God bless him, was an excellent master. The last Candelas who could craft the famous blade of Toledo. Due to my father-in-law's international fame, the late Juan Candelas, the blade master, many people used to come to him, and they never left disappointed. However, he unexpectedly left us 2 years ago. The doctor could not exactly say what fatal disease took him.
Could you tell me what this lost sword looked like?
Of course I can, Mr. Hunt. For decades I saw it every day. It hung up there on the wall of our bedroom. It was a beautifully ornamented piece, with lots of ornamental curves, precious stones, and a perfect blade, which the famous blade master engraved his name on. It was one of Juan Candelas' best works. My father-in-law gave it to us as a wedding present. Well, yes, it was a long time ago.
If it is such a masterpiece and even a family heirloom, why was Alonso Garcia de la Rica given the sword?
Please, Mr. Hunt, don't ask me these questions. Those were confused times. That is, I don't know it myself. Something happened 4 years ago. Carlos was upset for weeks, had sleepless nights, and lost a lot of weight. But he did not talk about his trouble, however much I asked him. Then, suddenly, he announced to my son and me that he had lost a bet and he had to give the beautiful weapon to Garcia de la Rica. I admit I never believed a word of his, but I knew him. There must have been a reason for his decision. I had to accept it. My son didn't argue with him either. He accepted it. He only told me once that if we had still had that sword, he would have asked for dear Carmen's hand. My dear treasure, they love each other so. But Francisco is just as proud as he is poor. Carmen is an angelic being. I know her well. She was still a baby when I became her nanny. Oh, what a beautiful baby she was. She heard Spanish from me for the first time. I considered her my daughter. She became a clever, smart girl, in that she takes exactly after her father. And she loves my son so much. And of course, he loves her too. My God, how happy I'd be if I saw them marry in this life. Salvador was a handsome man. Unfortunately, he died not so long ago. We will all pass away. He was reserved, sort of an artistic personality who turned women's heads even as an old man. My husband and he were good pals, even when they were children. And after the long trip to England, everything continued where they had left it years before. He and Carlos met a lot in the last years. They were good men. God bless them both. Mr. Alonso was both my husband's and the painter Diez Palencia's childhood friend. Today it is difficult to say this, but they were friends. Good friends, even as they got older. After Salvador returned from England, they were on friendly terms again. But Mr. Alonso was always on the margins of the business. The Garcia de la Rica family is very rich. Many politicians and other powerful men have descended from their line. But he was of a different nature than the other two. Years ago there was some family tragedy. Then he really broke down. Since then, he has only been concentrating on the city matters, instead of his own business. He has become a lonely and grumpy man, although I used to see him laugh when he was younger.
Thank you, Mrs. Candelas, for answering my questions.
It was my pleasure, Mr. Hunt. You seem to be such a nice, honest person. You will take care of dear Carmen, won't you?
Of course. What's more, I'll see what I can do for your dear son.
Oh, I would be eternally indebted to you, Professor.
A moon calendar. Does no one mind that it has expired? It's last year's. Good morning, officer. My name is Professor Samuel Hunt, a researcher from the British Museum. I would need some information.
Well, a foreigner. Good morning, Professor? What is a professor doing here? Do you have somewhere to stay? You can just walk around here in the street. I know a hotel
I came to visit an old acquaintance. I'm staying with my friend. I am housed comfortably, thank you.
Old acquaintance. But I bet I haven't seen you here about.
That is correct. I know this person from England.
This must be Salvador, the painter. But he's dead. Are you joking with me?
His daughter was so kind as to host me, but do not worry, I only intend to stay for a few days.
I see. But still, if you needed it, I know a good hotel. My nephew is the...
Thank you, officer, no. But would you answer a few questions of mine?
Of course. That is, it depends on what you're interested in.
I am looking for a certain young man by the name of Francisco Candelas.
Francisco? You see, it's not the best time. He's sitting over there. It wasn't easy to catch him because he resisted strongly. But I grabbed him hard by his shirt and brought the villain in here to steal from that good Mr. Alonso. He stole an ornamental sword worth a fortune, did you know?
Yes, I've heard about it. And I've also heard that the sword is still missing and that the boy is innocent.
Uh-huh. Word travels fast, huh? Well, that sword really hasn't been found. Not yet. But I'll get it. I'll find it, since I'm concentrating all my efforts on it, as you can see. But the idea that the Francisco kid is innocent, it would be difficult to prove. It was his grandfather's sword. He wanted to get it back. Blatantly obvious. He worked at Mr. Alonso's house every single day. He planned it out, and then he stole it. That's all. Mr. Alonso testified against him, and he's a clever man, a greatly respected man, whose influence reaches everywhere. This blacksmith's assistant is in deep trouble.
And have you any other proof, Mr. Reollos?
Officer Reollos. Proof? There is proof. But I mustn't discuss this with a stranger. A police officer must be able to keep things confidential. I can say, however, that Mr. Alonso's testimony will be the most decisive proof before all courts.
Yes, this must be so. Why do you think that the sword has not been found? Have you any idea where it could be?
Where it could be? How should I know? But we will find it. That boy must know where it is, and if he won't tell me, my colleagues in Madrid will get him to talk. Don't you worry about it.
Sergeant, would you allow me to have a few words with that straying lad?
No way, Professor. You have no permission.
But who could give such permission?
Me, of course.
Well, really? Then I'd like to have your permission to talk to the young Candelas.
I can't. I would need an order from a higher authority.
You're not saying that only your colleagues in Madrid can issue this order too? Is that all the influence you have over anything on your own? Aren't you the head of the police station here?
Of course, I am. And of course, I'm able to make my own decisions. But I can't. Not because of those in Madrid. They shouldn't always be interfering with our business.
Well, then who could give such an order?
Ask Mr. Alonso. If I get an order signed by Mr. Alonso, I don't mind. You can go in and talk to the suspect.
Where does this Mr. Alonso live?
The Garcia de la Rica Palace is on the main square. You can't miss it. But if you only intend to stay a few days, Professor, then you are unlikely to have any success. As far as I know, today Mr. Alonso has gone with his son to his relatives for a week, and even the housekeeper was released on holiday. Only that the cold-blooded butler stays in the house on such occasions.
Maybe it is still worth a try. Would you allow me to ask some more questions?
Of course, but don't expect gossip from me. A policeman never spreads gossip. I knew Carlos Candelas. He used to be a swordsmith like his grandfather, and great-grandfather, and great-great-grandfather, and his son too. Decent family. This is a big shame for old Carlos. Widow of Candelas. Yes, I must have seen her, because I know everyone in the neighborhood, but especially those with whom I've had trouble. I don't know Isabel Candelas very well. Hey, what a pretty big lass came of that little girl with the braided hair. How could I not know her? On a cloudy day, it would be enough for her to walk down the square, and glimmering brightness would fill even the darkest dungeon. Once she happened to say, "I'm a handsome, decent man." True, it could have been 5 years ago by now. I had no trouble with that painter, but I must tell you frankly, I was always suspicious of him, and I have a nose that never fails. That man was hiding some secret, but now we will never know what it was. Of course, there's no mistake about it. Someone who lives for a long time abroad and then returns suddenly with a child and without a mother. It is unavoidable the talk about him. Oh, Mr. Alonso is a highly respected nobleman. He's very influential, an eminent politician. He traveled around the country for a long time. He knows everyone. He leads a quiet and calm life, has a luxurious home, but he hasn't been leading much of a household since the death of his wife. As far as I know, his son is preparing to be a politician or a lawyer.
Thank you for your help, Sergeant Reyes. I am really grateful to you.
No problem, Professor. Just come anytime you want to know something. I know about everything. And if you need accommodation, my uncle's hotel is in the name...
Thank you again, Mr. Reyes.
See you, Professor.
I won't have an easy time with this good policeman. This must be Alonso Garcia de la Rica's palace. Imposing building, but it looks like it is locked. Is there really no one at home? The garden of the palace. Maybe I will manage to get into the house from here.
Good afternoon. Can I help you?
Good afternoon. I am looking for Mr. Alonso Garcia de la Rica. Please announce my arrival. I am Professor Hunt from London.
I'm sorry, sir. I can't.
You can't? And why? It is absolutely necessary I talk to him.
I'm sorry, but Mr. Garcia de la Rica is not in.
Oh, so he has truly departed.
So you already know. Well, he has already departed with his son.
And when do they return from the trip?
I'm expecting them next Wednesday, sir. Please, come back next week. Goodbye.
Please wait. Maybe you could help me.
Really? Hugo. Just call me Hugo.
Thank you, Hugo.
What can I help you with?
I need help in a delicate matter.
I'm at your disposal.
You must have heard that the young Francisco Candelas was imprisoned on charges of theft.
Naturally, I have. A very sad case.
May I ask you what you think of it?
Look, I'm not in the habit of stating my opinion. And then, Professor, if I am right, you are not an investigator or someone like that. And I have stated everything I know into Reollo's record book.
I see. You are immensely loyal to your master. Well, thank you, Hugo. I don't think you can help.
Wait! You must really understand why I am distrustful. I can't have known which side you are on, Professor. Now, something tells me that you are asking for help from me to have the Candelas boy acquitted.
Well,
Because I have to admit that I am really sorry about all that happened. And I don't believe at all that that nice boy is a thief. I would be glad to help if I can.
I don't know if you can, but you could try. As a first step towards getting Francisco out, it is essential that I talk to him to get the details from him. However, the police sergeant won't let me near him unless Mr. Garcia de la Rica releases an authorization for me. I would be grateful if you pressured the master of the house in a telegram to do so.
I see. Well, it is absolutely impossible. I have no idea where and how that telegram would reach him. But there may be another solution. But of course, I would be risking my job.
As I have mentioned, I would be grateful.
I can very convincingly forge Alonso Garcia de la Rica's signature.
Great. Would you do it?
I think so, yes. I'm not saying it doesn't bother me that such a treasure can be stolen from this house just like that, but to condemn an innocent boy just because someone must be made a scapegoat, deep inside my sense of justice protests. Though I had thought that this ability had long ago died in me, being in this position.
You are a decent man, Hugo, and in gratitude...
Please, don't give me any money, Professor. But you could help me to make money.
I can promise that. How can I help, then?
I have a stamp. My brother, who lives in France and is an experienced stamp collector, says that it is not a worthless specimen. But for me, it is, as long as it is a stamp.
Where could I sell it for you?
There is an antique dealer nearby, a certain Pablo Arriaga, around the middle of Calais de Aranjuez. He is the only one in the area who also deals in stamps.
But why don't you do it, Hugo?
The reason is simple, Professor. The origin of the stamp is doubtful, so to say. And then, such a dealer, besides being a potential spy, can easily cheat a simple butler like myself, but not an English traveler. You understand me, Professor, don't you?
I understand. How much is this stamp worth?
According to my brother, it is worth at least 1,600 pesetas. But you know what? If you get 1,500 out of that dealer, I'd be happy. He wouldn't give me more than 1,000, that's for sure. Will you do it for me?
Of course I will. May I ask you what kind of stamp this is and where it comes from? You know, I don't want to get into any trouble.
Don't worry, Professor. There's no danger here. I discovered a book for myself when I was cleaning the library that contained an envelope. An empty envelope folded in which the stamp lay unused, but nothing else.
Some writing? A letter? Message?
No, nothing. Maybe somebody wanted to post the book itself to a distant friend, because it would have fit in the envelope. And then there's a second copy of the book in the library.
Interesting. Do you have any idea whose book that might have been?
One thing is sure. It's not Mr. Alonso's. He does not read books on wine production. It must certainly be his father-in-law's, who gave his whole library to the son-in-law upon the marriage of the late Mrs. Alma Garcia de la Rica. The bookshelves looked handsome in the brand-new palace. Mr. Rosel Martino was a lord, and he was interested in a famous vineyard region. But the book and the stamp, judging from their age, could also have been his father's.
Why? How old is that stamp?
It comes from 1854, so it is exactly 50 years old. According to my brother, it is a rarity because of its color. A stamp with the value of 1 real with a coat of arms. Very few of them were made in light blue. The normal version may be worth perhaps 50 to 60 pesetas. But this one, here, is a small fortune.
Aha, now I understand. Thank you for telling me. Hugo, could I have that book too, together with the stamp? You said there was a duplicate. Maybe no one will miss it if I take it.
Why not, Professor? I have never seen Mr. Alonso take down a single book off the shelves. What is more, I found this one behind a row of books when I was doing the cleaning. I'll find it by the time you're back. But are you interested in wine production in Spain, Professor?
Who knows, my friend, who knows?
It is a beautiful sword indeed, but I was never particularly interested in weapons. I don't know much about them either. And I have to say this attitude can be tolerated a lot, even here, in the homeland of the famous blade of Toledo, although it is neither very popular nor common. Few people have visited the palace recently, but all regarded the Candela sword highly. More than one offered large sums for it. Mr. Fernandez, a retired general, actually fell in love with it. And Count Hungria, the playboy, and Arriaga, the dealer, both admired it. However, Mr. Alonso would not part with the treasure for any amount of money. A good butler either speaks well of his employer or says nothing at all.
Then at least tell me something good about him, Hugo.
I can't say much good. You know, everything changed some years ago. Everything ended with the sudden death of Mrs. Alma Garcia de la Rica. The light and comfort left the house forever, just as it left Mr. Alonso's eyes. A promising political career fell apart, and friendships fell prey to bitterness. This man is no longer the man he was 10 years ago, Professor. He won't speak to anyone except his son, and when he does, he is crude and grumpy. He is feared around Toledo, but he has considerable influence in Madrid as well. It seems his artlessness increases his authority. Francisco is a decent, hard-working young man. He had been working in the house for weeks, making and repairing knobs, putting bars on the windows in the back. He arrived on time every morning, and he left in the evening only after he had finished the day's work. Naturally, Mr. Alonso was irritable with him too, but he was never bothered by this. He always behaved respectfully.
Could he see the famous sword?
Of course. The sword hung over the landing in a central place, and he passed it every day. To tell you the truth, I saw him admiring the sword more than once, even caressing it.
Oh. And have you perhaps told this to the police?
Unfortunately, yes.
But all this was perhaps nothing more on his part than a natural manifestation of resigned attachment.
Yes, I know. I feel I owe that boy. The old swordsmith? He wasn't a rare visitor to the house earlier. Then the friendship stopped when all cheerfulness stopped. The old Candelas brought the sword to Mr. Alonso around then. I never understood his purpose. I don't understand it to this day. Francisco's mother? I don't know her personally. The painter's daughter, if I'm not mistaken. No, I don't remember meeting her. But she is said to be a very pretty woman. The young Eugenio has been referring to her lately as his future bride. Well, I don't envy such a vain guy's future bride at all. The painter was a great man. May he rest in peace. Traveled around the world, a person of European thinking. Not like some of the backward characters here in the area. He had a good understanding of and was interested in everything. Be it painting, music, photography, history, politics, sports. He used to be a regular visitor in our house some time ago. And I had the good fortune of having longer conversations with him in the garden several times. Mr. Diaz Palencia highly appreciated the garden, which is under my care. Thank God I have little business with the police. But I wouldn't have much to talk about with this Rayollos. I consider him a rude man. Fortunately, nothing much happens in this neighborhood. Not enough for us to require a sharp and commanding policeman.
May I ask what a French butler is doing serving a Spanish master?
Well, it is a long and unpleasant story. Please, don't ask me about it.
Something tells me you weren't planning on this profession when you were young.
Come, is there anyone who plans on being a butler? But you are right. I used to be on the other side of things at home for a long time, so to say. Then something happened. I'm doing penance, Professor. Yeah, it should be enough now. I only dare to say so much because, on the one hand, you are a stranger. On the other hand, we have become accomplices. Do you understand me?
Of course, and you can count on my secrecy. Thank you for your help, Hugo. I'll be back soon.
I'll be waiting for you, Professor. Meanwhile, I'll prepare what you've requested. See you later.
So, let's see if I still remember something from my student days when I experimented with acting as a supporting actor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to the gentleman. What would you like?
I was just passing by. You know, I'm only stopping by this city, meeting an old friend in Valencia, a rich aristocrat. You must have heard of him, Don Diego de Mora y Aragon.
Oh, Don Diego is an enormous authority among antique collectors. So you are his good friend. What an honor.
Well, yes.
If I'm not mistaken, you are an English gentleman?
Indeed. I've arrived from London. My name is Hunt, Samuel Hunt. I am a collector as well. Although I did not plan to buy in the city of Toledo, but it so happens my associate has been feeling unwell, and I thought I should not let the opportunity to buy something beautiful for my collection pass me by. Someone recommended you.
Oh, such an honor, Mr. Hant. I'm pleased to offer my services. If you also need accommodation, I can offer one of the guest rooms of my humble home.
Thank you, Mr. Arriaga, but I already have accommodation. You know, the local policeman was so kind as to...
So you are staying at the Hotel Mayoral. A very pleasant place. Sergeant Riollos' uncle is the owner.
Indeed. I would like to have a look around your shop, if I may.
Oh, all this junk won't suit your tastes. However, I have some treasures which I have been keeping exactly for customers with such high standards as you have, Mr. Hant.
So you know my taste.
Look, an English gentleman who is Don Diego's friend would be more satisfied with something special than with a gaudy piece of junk.
You've sparked my interest, Mr. Arriaga. Are you talking about very special goods?
You know, some of them are so special that many people are searching for them, even the authorities. If you know what I mean, Mr. Hant.
Gee, I understand what you're getting at. I think you must have an exciting collection. We could have a look at it presently.
Well, if possible, I would not like to be hasty about it. You know, these are really delicate cases. Please, don't be offended. Although it is far from me to suppose that you are not what you have claimed yourself to be.
Perhaps you're asking me to identify myself.
No, for heaven's sake, Mr. Hant, we all carry secrets which we should not make public. But money has no scent. So if I'm not offending you, I would like to see that you are able to pay, Mr. Hant.
Well, you have surprising methods, but I understand. Naturally, I have no considerable amount on me.
No problem, sir. Please, return any time, even at night, when you can prove that your intentions are serious, and I promise to show you paradise.
All right.
And of course, I'm counting on your full confidentiality.
Naturally. Come to think of it, since I did not plan on this trip, I am not carrying cash with me. I would urgently need some money to spend. Are you perhaps interested in stamps as well?
You are at the best place, Mr. Hant. I'm the only antique dealer in the neighborhood who is also an expert in stamps. I might help.
This is an old Spanish stamp. You must be familiar with it. It is not of small value.
Oh, a light blue 1 real stamp from the middle of the last century. Well, you really seem to be a connoisseur.
Would you buy it from me?
Yes, I think so. By all means. I am prepared to pay at least 1,000, even 1,200 pesetas.
Look, I was thinking of 1,900 pesetas. I won't take less by any means.
Sir, this is really a rarity, but believe me, I cannot give you more than 1,450 pesetas for it.
Sorry. No. Then I'll find another option.
As you please, Mr. Hant.
Did you say 1,700?
I said 1,500. But due to the prospect of your future purchase, Mr. Hant...
Great, I was thinking of 1,600 as well. It's a deal.
Well, yes. All right, 1,600 pesetas, because you're a real gentleman.
I knew we'd managed to reach an agreement. You know, Mr. Arriaga, as a stranger I feel somewhat lost hereabouts. I have made acquaintances with some people today. I feel that your way of thinking is rather similar to mine. Would you be so kind as to give me some information about these people?
I don't know if I know them, but I'd be glad to help you. So you have heard about it, Mr. Hant. Unfortunate case. I am sorry. I don't know any details. And I'm not interested. The criminal is behind bars and will soon have his due punishment.
It is said that the sword has not been found.
Really? I don't know about it. How should I know?
They also say it is a pretty sword. Perhaps exactly Juan Candalas's work.
Yes, I had the opportunity to see it in the owner's house, but unfortunately I didn't observe it thoroughly enough.
That was a mistake, given what a meticulous expert you are, Mr. Arriaga.
Oh, so you have made the acquaintance of the most beautiful angel of the area. A really kind person, although we are only on greeting terms. And lucky too. It is said that she will soon marry the well-to-do Eugenio Garcia de la Rica, a young man who has a serious political career ahead of him. It's a pity you cannot meet Salvador, the painter. He has died recently. I'm sure you would have found common interests. You know, he lived in England for a long time. He visited noble society. There is a rumor that his daughter's mother was a noble woman. Although, you know, there is so much gossip in a small city like this. But it would be a mistake to believe everything one hears. You've heard about the young blacksmith. Everyone says he is a blessed young man. But have they also mentioned that he is in prison right now? Because he stole from his employer, a rich man? Well, the coin has two sides, Mr. Hant. One cannot choose one's neighbors, Mr. Hant. Especially my fellow poor and modest people are burdened by this curse. Although there used to be a time when that woman respected me, she has not bothered to even greet me for 3 years now. Despite the fact that I swear I haven't done anything wrong. I was selling their work too, but the family blamed me for not being able to sell their swords and daggers. The interest has simply decreased. He was the last descendant of the famous swordsmith family, renowned for their sword craftsmanship. Unfortunately, there was less and less demand for his works. Unlike his father's, Juan Candela's works are well known by collectors all over the world. Maybe you have heard of them, Mr. Hant. They called him the Blade Master. He was a real artist. God bless him. After his death, the weapons he made became even more expensive. Alonso's palace is on La Mancha Square. He's an excellent man, influential, authoritative, and moreover, he has a sense of artistic objects. He buys a lot from me, a man with a very good taste. I was afraid he would move away for a longer time because there was a rumor that he would be ambassador to a country in South America. However, the plan fell through for some reason. Nowadays, his son, Eugenio, has similar plans. Mr. Alonso's butler, he comes from France. He has a real poker face. You could easily imagine he is hiding something or is running from his past. Stay clear of him, Mr. Hant. The policeman? Well, I haven't had much business with him. Thank God. I think he is the kind of character that God created precisely to be a policeman.
Thank you for your kindness, Mr. Arriaga. As I have promised, I will soon return, and we will talk about the details of the purchase.
May we have the pleasure, Mr. Hant. See you later.
Oh, the door is open. Perhaps Hugo won't be angry if I simply enter the garden. Hugo? This garden is very pretty and fits this rich palace. You can't deny that this butler knows how to live. Hugo, I have good news. I managed to make a deal with the arts dealer. I sold your stamp.
Oh, really? Well, I am very grateful for you, Professor. May I ask how much you got for it?
You wanted to have 1,500 for it, didn't you? Well, I brought you that amount.
You are an excellent businessman, Mr. Hunt. Thank you. Thank you. And now I will give you what I promised. Here you are. The permission in Mr. Alonso's abrupt style. The sergeant won't doubt it was written by the master.
Are you certain that the writing is sufficiently similar?
I am? How shall I say? It's not the first time that I have used this ability of mine, sir.
I believe I understand.
I hope it is successful. And one more thing. The book. You asked for the book I found the stamp in. Here you are. It's yours. Tell me if it is of any use to you. Although I wouldn't be the one to help you when you want to buy a vineyard in the La Mancha region.
Thank you very much indeed, Hugo.
The merchant is a sly criminal. A mean man is hiding behind his false modesty. They say his friends are from the underworld. Armed guards watch his sleep at night. Of course, you know the town gossip. But be careful nevertheless, Professor. If you allow me to suggest, always take his words with a grain of salt.
Look, they aren't gone yet? All right, Professor. It will be as Mr. Alonso requested. You can talk to that blacksmith's assistant whenever you wish to. That is, as long as he is there, because once they come for him from Madrid, this paper will be of no use. Go ahead. The corridor door is open. What I think of the dealer? Do you know that we have had anonymous reports from here and there that strange people come to visit him, and he has connections in the criminal underworld? But I must say, I keep an eye on him, and I haven't caught him in any misconduct. And then you cannot just hold somebody responsible because of who he is friends with. It is easy to believe the town gossip, but where is the proof? You understand? The proof. That's what's missing in these cases. Tangible proof.
Like in the case of Francisco Candelas.
Yes. No, that is an entirely different case. But if there were proof there, maybe it would be a different situation. The French butler is a lord among the lords. I tell you, Professor, he holds his nose so high up, it's as if he weren't serving Mr. Alonso, but vice versa. Mr. Alonso, whom I respect deeply for his achievements, knowledge, and birth, once told me what he thinks of sin. He said that it is poverty that breeds sin in people, need and despair. And it is always the rich who are abused then. Very wise thoughts. I have come to see more clearly since then. I keep one eye on the poor and the other on the rich. You always have to protect those more who have more to lose, right, Professor?
Well...
Believe me, such wisdom is worth more than an excellent cigar. And I really like cigars, you know?
Are you Senor Candelas?
Yes, I am. But who are you? Some detective? Are you already taking me to Madrid?
My name is Samuel Hunt. I'm English and I travel the world as an adventurer. I observe and collect.
I see. And may I ask why you're here to talk to me?
I would like to help you if you can help me.
I suspected you were here on business, but I have nothing. Well, I can't give you what I have.
Calm down, young man. The situation is simpler than that.
What do you want from me?
First of all, more accurate information, young Candelas. I am ready to believe that you are innocent, but it is not easy to prove.
Are you going to be my lawyer, Mr. Hunt? Perhaps Carmen asked you to be my lawyer?
No, not quite. Believe me, it is important for me personally that you be set free soon.
This is getting mysterious. Would you tell me where you know me from or what you want from me?
I think you must know if I say that, in fact, I am in search of the Agon.
The Agon? What? In search of the Agon? Gee, you'd be the legendary hero who comes one day according to tales to take the curse off our family?
Excuse me, but what is so funny about it?
I apologize. It is simply that this is not how I imagined it as a child. You know, you're not exactly what a hero looks like in a classical tale.
I agree with that, Mr. Candelas, but it also seems this is not a tale at all.
Just call me Francisco. I'm not worthy of the Candela's name anymore.
Don't talk like this.
But I'm not. But this is not so important now. It is more important that I have here before me the man who brings my ancestors' legend alive, and the hero who will bring freedom one day.
Well, you would need that at the moment, Francisco.
Yes, it's true. Because if you don't get me out of here in a short time, I will never teach you the curse of Albuquerque.
Albuquerque?
That's the name of the game. According to the tradition, the Moors brought it to Spain hundreds of years ago. They knew it by the name of El Quaquet. Then, thanks to the curse, it was slowly forgotten.
I see. I would not like to miss the opportunity to get to know it. Please help me. Let me do everything I can for it.
Of course. What are you interested in, Mr. Hunt?